Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So, good evening, everyone. Today I'm going to present about the topic like we are going to characterize the set of discontinuities of the limit of continuous functions. So, this is an application of Bayes category theorem, which was done a couple of days back by Samit. So, I will just recall a few definitions and a bit a few theorems which will relate to this. So, firstly, we see what a dense set is. Uh, we take a metric space X and the subset F is said to be dense if the closure of that set is pole of X. Okay. Then we see what a nowhere dense set is. Subset F of a metric space is said to be nowhere dense if the interior of its closure is empty. Then we come to a definition for the meager set. We take a metric space X and a subset is called meager if it's the countable union of nowhere dense subsets of X. Now, I recall this definition which was given by Samit few days back. So we call a topological space to be Bayes space if this condition holds. That is, given any countable collection of closed sets, each of which has an empty interior, then the union also has empty interior. So this is the condition for a topological space to be a Bayes space. So today what we will see is that we take a Bayes space and then and a sequence of complex continuous functions which pointwise converge to a function f. Then that function f can have the set of discontinuities will be at most meager. So that is what we are going to characterize today. And a small point to note is that in a Bayes space, if we take a meager set and take its complement, it is going to be dense because omega set is a union of nowhere dense subsets, but each nowhere dense subset has empty interior. So the union also has empty interior just by the definition of Bayes space. Hence, if we take the complement, it is going to be dense. So another way to put the result is we have a sequence of continuous function which pointwise converges to a function f. Then the f is continuous in a dense subset of the space. So this is one form of the Bayes category theorem, which was stated before. So we take a non-empty complete metric space M, and any sequence of closed sets Fn whose union is M, then there exists an n naught, an integer, a natural number n naught, such that the interior of that Fn naught is empty. What this says is that we can't write the space as a countable union of uh, sets whose interior is empty. So whose closed sets whose interior is empty. So we get an index such that whose interior is non-empty. So the meager set is also called, you would have seen this definition as first category. It is also called meager. So what this states is a complete metric space is not a first category or it is not meager. So, as I told, suppose we have this sequence of continuous functions which uniformly converge to the limit function, then we can't talk about discontinuity due to because of this theorem, which states if the sequence uniformly converges to a continuous to a function f, then the function must be also continuous, which is which is the uniform limit here. I'll read it now. So we take a topological space X and Y to be a metric space, and we have the sequence of functions Fn, each of which is continuous. And this sequence also uniformly converges to the function f. Then f must be continuous. So today we will talk only about pointwise convergence because the case of uniform convergence has been settled by this theorem. So before looking into the theorem, we will look at some examples on the real line, how the possible sets of discontinuities. That is, firstly, you take this sequence x by n, fn of x equals x by n. It is clear that the sequence pointwise converges to this function f, which is the zero function. And the zero function is continuous everywhere. Then we take this sequence fn of x. So in the first example, the set of discontinuities is empty. This is the second case. We take this sequence fn of x equals 1 by x square plus 1 by n. As n tends to infinity, this sequence of functions pointwise converges to 1 by x squared. But it is clear that this function has a discontinuity at 0. So it is not always empty. So we have a sequence of continuous functions which pointwise converge to a discontinuous function. Here the set of discontinuity is 0. So now we consider the Cantor set C, and we consider this sequence of functions fn of x, which is defined as the maximum of 0 and 1 minus n, a distance between x and c. This d function is the distance between the point and the Cantor set. So this function is continuous. This d function is continuous. Hence, these each fn are continuous. And suppose we take a point x inside the Cantor set, then d of x comma c is going to be 0, and this value is going to be 1. So fn of x is always 1 when the point is chosen in the Cantor set. And suppose we take the point outside C, then we can look at a sufficiently large state such that this maximum is 0, because we can vary n, we can increase n, and then this maximum will be 0. So this is clear that it converges pointwise to the characteristic function on the Cantor set. Now, if you look at this function, since the Cantor set is closed, the complement is open. So this function is continuous. This function is discontinuous exactly at the Cantor set, which is a nowhere dense set, and it is also uncountable. So the set of discontinuities can be uncountable. So here we have the empty set, here we have a singleton set, and here we have a nowhere dense subset which is uncountable. So what we will try to say, this is the worst possible case that can occur. It can be a meager set, that is, it can be a countable union of nowhere dense subsets. It cannot go beyond that, the set of discontinuity. Okay. And finally, for another example, we take a differential function on R, and we note this. Suppose we consider the sequence of functions gn of x, which is defined by f of x plus 1 by n minus f of x over 1 by n. So just by the definition of differentiability, this function converges to f dash of x pointwise. So what I'm trying to tell here is that whenever we have a differential function, then the derivative function has discontinuities. The set of discontinuities can be at most meager only, because we use the theorem which we are going to prove now. So I'll state the theorem. Now we assume M is a complete metric space, and we consider the sequence of complex continuous functions Fn, and we define f of x to be the pointwise limit of this sequence of continuous functions. Then the claim is that the set of points where f is discontinuous is meager. That is, it is the countable union of nowhere dense subsets when it is non-empty. In other words, the set of points where f is continuous is the complement of a meager set, which we noted is dense. So I will try to prove this. Firstly, we try to define the oscillation of a function at a point x, and then use that to describe the set of discontinuities as below. So firstly, we define this function omega, which now we fix the function f for any arbitrary function f, which we fix the function f and the point x. So for every r, this omega of f of r comma x is defined to be the supremum of y comma z in this br of x, which is the open ball around x of radius r. We look at all the differences, modulus of f of z, f of y minus f of z, and we look at all the differences and take the supremum. So just by this definition, if we reduce r, if just r is some non-zero real number, non-negative real number, or positive real number. Now if we reduce r, then the supremum is going to be taken over a smaller subset. So if we reduce r, the supremum, that value is going to reduce. Okay. Now we define the oscillation of f at the point x. So we have already defined this omega function, and now we take the limit of this omega function as r decreases to 0. Okay. Which is this is a sequence of non-negative real numbers, the sequence omega of f of r comma x, which is bounded below. So we take this limit. So this is obviously going to be the infimum of this set, omega of r comma x over r greater than 0. So if you have any doubts, you can stop anyway. Next, we note this simple point, that is the oscillation of the function at a point x is 0 if and only if it is continuous at the point x. So this is very simple. We just use both the definitions. That's all. We use the definition of continuity, we will get this. We use the definition of oscillation, we will get this. Okay. So from this, we take the complement of this statement, which states it is discontinuous at a point only if the oscillation is non-zero. So we will use this to define the set of discontinuities. Okay. Okay. Now note that.
Can you go back to
Sorry.
sorry, like can you go back to the definition of oscillation?
Yes.
Just once.
Sure. So we firstly define this omega function, which depends on the point x, f, and r. Okay. So this is the supremum of these values. Then we take the infimum over the value.
Okay.
Yeah. If possible, maybe you can explain the delta epsilon delta definition. Go through that.
Yes, yes.
Okay. This may not be
For this, sir.
Hmm.
Okay. So now let us try to prove this. So let f be continuous at x. We should show that the oscillation is 0. So you see that the oscillation is infimum of some value, right? So if you want to prove that it is 0, if we choose for any small epsilon, if we can give a small, if we can give a suitable r such that the omega of that r is going to be less than epsilon, then we would have proved that the oscillation is 0, right? Because it is just the infimum, just the definition of infimum. Okay. So suppose f is continuous at x, we have to get an open ball around x such that the omega value is less than epsilon for a given epsilon. So that is true because you take any epsilon and apply the definition of continuity, you will get a delta such that the delta ball around x will map into the epsilon ball around f of x. So we can just reduce the epsilon to epsilon by 2 so that the differences between those 2 points will be less than epsilon. So the oscillation will be 0. Right? Okay. Now, for the conversely, suppose the oscillation was 0, we should show that the function is continuous at x. So that we take an arbitrary epsilon ball around f of x. We want a delta ball here that maps into the epsilon ball. So for this epsilon, since this was the infimum, so for this epsilon, we will get an r naught such that the omega value will be less than that epsilon. Omega of f of r naught comma x. So if we take this ball, this is going to map into that, right? So this holds true. Okay. Now, for each epsilon, we are going to Okay, this is for each n. Sorry, this is a typo. For every n, we are going to define the set Dn. Okay, this is defined as the set of all x in our metric space n, whose oscillation at that point is greater than or equal to 1 by n. Why we do this is that we will our ultimate aim is to show this is closed and these sets are nowhere dense and this union will be D. This union will be D is clear because if for any if the oscillation is non-zero at a point, it is going to be in the Dn for some value. Conversely, these all will be contained in the D. Okay. So note that this is closed because if you take a point in the closure of Dn and you choose any ball around y, okay. So we have a point x which intersects this open ball intersects Dn just by definition of closure. So we have a point x in Dn intersection Br of y for any r. Okay. So this at the point x, the oscillation is greater than or equal to n, just by definition of Dn. We choose r naught small enough such that this Br naught of x is contained in Br of y. This ball is open, so we can do this. We can choose an open ball around x that is contained in Br of y. Okay. Now, since this value omega of f of r naught comma x is greater than or equal to n, this is because this oscillation is greater than or equal to x this oscillation at x is greater than or equal to n. This oscillation was infimum of all such values for every r. So for particularly this r, this is going to be greater than or equal to 1 by n because this was the infimum. Okay, so this is greater than or equal to 1 by n. So we have this open ball v r naught of x inside r open ball, such that this omega f r naught of comma x is greater than or equal to 1 by n. Just by definition of omega, this was the supremum of all those y comma z in a given ball. So the supremum at the bigger ball is obviously going to be greater than or equal to 1 by n, right? Because this is a subset of this. This is a subset of this. We look at the differences here and take the supremum. Here we are taking a larger set. So if you look at the supremum, it is going to be greater than or equal to 1 by n. So hence for all r, this is true. For arbitrary r, this is true. So if we take the infimum, so if you take the infimum, the oscillation is going to be greater than or equal to 1 by n at y. Hence y belongs to dn. So we took a point in the closure and show that it is in dn again. So these dn's are closed. Fine. Now, as I said, we define D to be the set of discontinuities of x of f. Okay. Then it is clear by the definition of dn and this result that these union of these dn's is going to be a d. Okay. Because if we take any point here, the oscillation is non-zero. In particular, it is positive, so it is going to lie somewhere here. And for any point here, it is going to lie in the discontinuity. Okay. Now it is enough to prove that each dn is nowhere dense. So this D will be a countable union of nowhere dense subsets. Hence D will be meager. So that is what we are going to prove. For that, we need the following lemma. So what the lemma states is this. We have a sequence of continuous functions Fn on a complete metric space N. Okay. The pointwise converge to F. Right. Then for any given open ball V and an epsilon greater than 0. So we fix a open ball and an epsilon. Then what the lemma states is that we can get an open ball B naught contained in B such and a stage M such that modulus fm of x minus f of x is less than or equal to epsilon for every x greater than for every x in B naught. So for any open ball B and an epsilon, we can get a smaller open ball inside it. Such and here there's another typo. This for all after the stage M. This is true after the stage M. Okay. So fm of x my fm naught of x minus fm of x less than or equal to epsilon for every m naught greater than or equal to m. Sorry. Fine. So what I will prove now is for any closed ball we can find a open ball B naught inside it. So that we would have proved this because given the open ball B, we can take this. Suppose the radius of this open ball B is r, we can take the smaller open ball of radius r by 2 and then take its closure. So closure as y. So if we prove it for closed balls, it is equivalent to proving for this. Okay. Why we use closed ball here is because we have a complete metric space and we know that we take a closed subset of the metric space, it is also going to be complete. Because if you take any Cauchy sequence, it is going to converge in this complete metric space. Since this ball is closed, it is going to converge inside Y itself. Okay. So we take a closed ball in M, say Y. So Y is also a complete metric space. Now, so we want a open ball B naught inside Y, such that this condition holds. Okay, for every X and B naught. So we define EL. We fix a natural number L and define the set EL, which is the set of all X in Y whose supremum over J and K greater than or equal to L and such that the difference is less than or equal to epsilon. So we look at all those X and look at the sequence Fn of X and we take the supremum or J comma K which is greater than or equal to L and the modulus value is less than or equal to epsilon. So I'll hold on here. You could check this. Yes. Now, can see just by the definition. So we defined EL to be this. So we can see that EL is just the intersection of J and K over greater than or equal to L of this set. So we fix each J and K and get a set like this, which is the set of all X such that mod Fj of X minus Fk of X is less than or equal to epsilon. So this is clear because you take a point here. Sorry, you take a point here. It is going to be in this EL because the supremum value is less than or equal to epsilon. So this X will automatically be here. And conversely, you take a point here and it is going to lie here in some stage. So this intersection and EL will be equal. Why we do this is because note that you look at this set. For each J and K, fixed J and K, you look at the set of all X, the same set. This is going to be closed. This is where we use continuity of the sequence because each Fm is continuous. In particular, Fj and Fk are continuous. So the difference is continuous, hence the modulus is continuous. So this set is nothing but the inverse of closed interval 0 comma epsilon. Okay. So this inverse, so this set is going to be closed due to the continuity of the Fms. Hence, being the intersection of closed sets, EL is also closed. So now we got a set EL which is closed. Okay. Now observe that we assume that the sequence pointwise at every point it converges. Okay. So Fn of X converges to F of X for all X in our complete matrix space. So this Y, the subset that we chose here, the closed ball we chose, is going to be the union of these ELs because you take any X in Y, we should show that it lies in some EL. Since this sequence converges, it is a Cauchy sequence in particular. So we can find a stage after which the differences, the Fj minus Fk is less than or equal to less than epsilon in particular. Hence it is less than or equal to epsilon. So it will lie in that stage, in that EM for the stage M. Okay. So any point will lie inside. By definition, this was a subset of this. So Y is going to be the union of these closed subsets. So now we use Baire category here. What it says is that Y was a complete metric space here. So we have written it as a union of closed subsets EL. Now we must have some set EM whose interior is non-empty. That is, it contains an open ball B0. Okay. Then just by definition of EM, for all X in B0, we are assuming B0 is a subset of EM. So for all X in B0, the supremum is less than or equal to epsilon. That was the definition of EL. Yes. This is by Baire category here. Fine. Now we have got the open ball B0. We should just see that this condition holds. Now in this line, we just fix J to be M, and then we increase the limit of K to as it tends to infinity. What we have is Fm of X minus F of X is less than or equal to epsilon for every X in B0. This is what we wanted to prove. So as I said in the beginning, we had a closed ball and then we got an open ball B0 such that the result holds. So if we are given an open ball B and of radius R, we could choose the R/2 ball inside it and take its closure, which is going to lie inside B, and hence apply this the proof for that closed ball. We will get an open ball. Now we have proved this lemma. Now we wanted to prove that each Dn that we define to be Nova dense. So that will follow easily just by the epsilon argument. Now, suppose some Dn was not Nova dense. That is, it contained a open ball P. We apply the lemma for this open ball, and the epsilon we choose it as 1/4n. You will see why. So, and we apply the lemma. So we get an open ball B0 inside this B, such that we have this condition. Now, we just apply the lemma. We have chosen this open ball to be B and the epsilon to be 1 by 4. Okay. Now, each FM is continuous. So we get a ball B1 inside this B0 such that their difference is less than or equal to 1 by 4n. We can do this just by definition of continuity for each FM. We can do this. Okay. Now we have a series of inequalities. So we are ultimately trying to get a contradiction because we assume this Dn was not nowhere dense. So and we got the open ball B. We applied the lemma. We are trying to get a contradiction, which is what the contradiction will be, that the oscillation will be less than strictly less than 1 by n. Okay. So look here, we take the difference f of y minus f of z, where y and z belong to this b1, which was a subset of b0, and this b0 is contained in b, which is already inside dn. So all this y and z lie inside dn. So we see this triangle. We just apply triangle inequality, and notice that this is less than or equal to 1 by 4n, and this is less than or equal to 1 by 4n, just by this criteria. And the middle term is less than or equal to 1 by 4. So adding together, this is going to be strictly less than 1 by n. So this is the contradiction we are looking for, because we had an open ball B1. Choose x1 to be the center of B1. Then the oscillation at x1 is going to be strictly less than 1 by n due to this. So, but this x1 was in dn, so that is a contradiction. Hence, each of these dn's must be nowhere dense. Hence, we have proved the theorem. That is, we took the set of discontinuities and show that it's the union of nowhere dense subsets. Okay. That is, it is going to be meager. Now, I just have few remarks. So, at the beginning of the proof, we consider the set of discontinuities T, and we prove that it was the union of these dn's, each of which were closed. So in particular, we prove that the set of discontinuities is an F sigma set. It is the countable union of closed sets. So that is the remark I'm giving here. So all these remarks are in the real line. So we have a real function. Then the set of discontinuities is an F sigma set. Now we saw that the derivative function can be written as the pointwise limit of a sequence of continuous functions. So if we apply the theorem for this, we have that the derivative function is continuous on a dense set, because the discontinuities are a meager set. So the complement is going to be this. Then I just have two questions, which I'll leave to you. So by this result, any function f, the discontinuities is going to be an F sigma set. What about the converse? Given an F sigma set on the real line R, can you construct an F such that the discontinuities are exactly that set? This is one question. The next one is, yes. Now, by the result we proved, for any sequence of continuous functions converging pointwise to this function f, that function has discontinuities. The discontinuities is a meager set, right? Then, but here we have for any real function, the discontinuities is an F sigma set. So can we compare these two sets? Is every meager set in R an F sigma set? And the converse. So you can think about it. So that is all for today. Thank you. If you have any questions, you can ask. Okay.
Yeah, it was good. So if you have any question, you can ask. Otherwise, I will end the session and we'll start again, because the session will end in few minutes, in 4 minutes.
Okay, sir.
I will end the session and start again. Okay.
Okay.
So if you have any question, you can ask. Still, there is some few minutes. Some 4 minutes is there. Okay, if there is no question, I will close it and we will come back in few minutes. In 2 minutes. Okay.